B&B spoilers. RJ, paired with Dylan, uses as cover to get to Will. The bold and the beautiful spoiler reveal that RJ Forrester, Brian Nicoletti, is back in town and ready to get back to work at Forrester Creations possibly. RJ could also find himself mixed up with Dylan, Sydney Bullock, who has just scored herself a job at Forrester Creations. Has Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, just hired another stalker at the company? Dylan seems glued to Electra Forrester. Dylan seems to be glued to Electra Forrester, Linnea Grace, and Will Spencer, Crew Morrow. She ever seems to have gotten a job at Forrester Creations with them. Dylan is homeless and refuses to give much information about her family. What if Dylan has no family because she is the person who got rid of her family before coming to LA? Dylan is acting very shady, especially after she supposedly killed Luna Nozawa, Lisa Yamada. Now it is almost as if Luna's personality has suddenly jumped into the timid Miss Dylan, who was loved by all of her students at the beach house before Luna held her prisoner and locked her up in a closet while trying to carry out a killing spree. RJ Forrester was a victim of Luna Nozawa too. RJ was unfortunately Luna's first victim. RJ loved Luna and thought she felt the same about him. Unfortunately, Luna ended up sleeping with Zen Forrester, Delonda Metz, and blaming her mother's drugs for it. Luna caused a major rift between RJ and Zen, not to mention that she finally went off and tried to kill RJ's sister and framed her own mother for murder. RJ eventually disappeared and is just now returning home after all of the drama, including Luna coming back from the dead, only to be killed once again by Dylan with a car. Now Dylan is acting very strange around not only Electra, but Will too. Dylan seems far too interested in Will than she does anyone else. Dylan acts as bad toward Will as Luna did. Electra Forrester may be caught off guard. Electra lives with her aunt Ivy Forrester, Ashley Brewer. Electra acts almost like a teenager who has to check in all of the time, bringing up that she has to go home eventually. However, now that Dylan is using the upstairs apartment, she will be near Will all of the time. Dylan could always pretend to be dating RJ to make it look like she was taken so she could make moves on Will. RJ, who wants nothing but to love and be loved, could easily get caught up in another romance. RJ is too trusting to be with a calculating woman like Dylan. RJ could find himself tangled up in another mess like he had with Luna. Will RJ find himself used by yet another stalker instead of finding the love he needs? The sun may be shining over the Forrester estate, but today a heavy cloud of betrayal hangs over Los Angeles. For fans of the bold and the beautiful, the latest developments involving RJ Forrester, now played by newcomer Brian Nicoletti, and the mysterious Dylan, Sydney Bullock, have left the Bridge and Beatty fandoms in a state of absolute shock. While the return of Ridge and Brooke's son was supposed to be a moment of healing following the traumatizing Luna Nozawa era, it has quickly devolved into a web of manipulation. The very sad news rocking the canvas today? It appears the burgeoning connection between RJ and Dylan isn't the youthful romance we hoped for. It's a calculated smokescreen designed to infiltrate the life of Will Spencer. The prodigal son returns to a house divided. RJ Forrester's return on January 15th, 2026, was initially framed as a fresh start. After a year of traveling to escape the shadow of Luna's murderous spree, RJ walked back into a family at war. His grandfather, Eric Forrester, has sensationally defected to the rival Logan fashion house, leaving Ridge and Brooke reeling. But RJ didn't return alone. He brought back a new edge, a new face, and a mysterious focus that hasn't sat well with longtime viewers. Instead of diving headfirst into the couture wars, RJ has been spending an inordinate amount of time with Dylan, the innocent newcomer who recently moved into Will Spencer's guest apartment. Dylan, the new Luna, or a woman on a mission. The tragedy of this sad news lies in the deception. Fans were rooting for Dylan, a girl who seemingly had nothing, living in her car before being rescued by Will and Electra. However, insiders are now pointing to a devastating truth. Dylan is not the victim she claims to be. Evidence is mounting that Dylan's growing attraction to RJ is a strategic pairing. By keeping RJ occupied and using him as a cover, Dylan has gained unfettered access to the inner sanctum of the Forrester and Spencer families. Her real target? Will Spencer. The chemistry between RJ and Dylan felt right at first, but today's reveal that she's using him as a pawn to get closer to Will is heartbreaking. RJ has already been through so much with Luna. He doesn't deserve to be a cover for someone else's agenda. B&B Fan Forum. The Tangle. Why target Will Spencer? The rivalry between RJ and Will is reaching a fever pitch. As the next-gen Forrester versus Spencer war ignites, the stakes have moved from the boardroom to the bedroom. Character current, motivation potential, secret RJ Forrester reclaiming his place at Forrester Creations. Is he truly oblivious? Or is he using Dylan too? Will Spencer protecting his mother's, Katie, new legacy at Logan? Haunted by the Spencer-Forrester blood feud, Dylan infiltrating the Spencer inner circle. Rumored ties to the late Luna Nozoa, Elektra keeping her relationship with Will intact, sensing Dylan's true nature before anyone else. The sadness of today's news is rooted in the destruction of Will's happiness. Will and Elektra have been the show's gold standard young couple. But with Dylan using RJ as a shield to bypass their defenses, that foundation is crumbling. A calculated betrayal, the Monday face-off. Spoilers for Monday, January 19th, 2026, indicate that the cover may start to slip. When Will and RJ come face-to-face for the first time in years, the tension isn't just about business. It's about the woman standing between them. RJ is reportedly blindsided to learn that Elektra and Will are a solid unit. But it's his defense of Dylan that will truly cause a rift. Dylan has played the damsel role perfectly, convincing RJ that she needs protection from the cold world of the Spencers. In reality, she is positioning herself to dismantle Will's life from the inside out. Why this is today's very sad news. For viewers, the sadness comes from seeing history repeat itself. The show just finished the Killer Luna arc, where RJ was left emotionally shattered. To see him immediately fall into another trap, this time with Dylan using him as a literal cover to reach his cousin/rival Will, is a bitter pill for the audience to swallow. Furthermore, the collateral damage to Katie and Bill's newlywed bliss is looming. If Dylan succeeds in her mission to get to Will, she isn't just breaking a young man's heart. She's destabilizing the delicate peace between the Logans and the Spencers. What's next? Can the truth save the Forresters? As we look toward the week of January 19th to 23rd, the question remains, who will unmask Dylan first? Elektra is already suspicious, sharing her concerns with Will. Steffi has given Dylan a job at Forrester, unknowingly inviting the fox into the henhouse. Ridge and Brooke are too distracted by the Logan business war to notice their son is being played. The sad news of the RJ/Dylan pairing is a wake-up call. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, a beautiful face often hides a deadly intent. And the beautiful news lands like a punch to the gut, leaving fans stunned, conflicted, and deeply emotional. What initially looks like a bold new romantic pairing is quickly revealed as something far more tragic and far more dangerous. RJ Forrester being paired with Dylan isn't about love, growth, or fresh beginnings. It's a calculated cover, a heartbreaking strategy. And at the center of it all is one devastating truth. RJ is using Dylan to get to Will Spencer. This isn't just another love triangle twist. This is a story about manipulation, buried longing, identity, and the quiet kind of heartbreak that doesn't explode all at once. It seeps in slowly, leaving permanent scars. A pairing that never sat right. When RJ Forrester and Dylan first appeared together on screen, fans immediately felt something was off. On paper, the pairing made sense. RJ, sensitive, artistic, emotionally layered. Alongside Dylan, a character already wrapped in secrecy, instability, and unresolved trauma. The show framed it as unexpected but intriguing. A slow burn connection, a fresh dynamic. But almost immediately, Subtle clues suggested this wasn't the love story it was pretending to be. RJ's smiles didn't quite reach his eyes. His affection felt measured, rehearsed. And Dylan, desperate for connection, validation, and safety, leaned in with a vulnerability that felt painfully real. What viewers were watching wasn't romance blooming. It was one heart opening while another stayed guarded. And now, the truth is devastatingly clear. The shocking truth: Dylan is a cover. In today's very sad reveal, B&B pulls back the curtain on RJ's true motivation, and it changes everything. RJ isn't with Dylan because he wants to be. He's with Dylan because he needs access to Will Spencer. Will, the one RJ can't stop watching. The one he keeps finding excuses to be near. The one whose presence makes RJ visibly unravel in ways Dylan never does. Dylan is the shield, the camouflage, the socially acceptable explanation that keeps questions at bay while RJ inches closer to Will under the radar. This revelation reframes every tender moment between RJ and Dylan as something deeply unsettling. Every kiss becomes a lie. Every whispered reassurance becomes manipulation. And worst of all, Dylan has no idea. RJ Forrester, torn between fear and desire. RJ isn't a villain twirling a mustache. That's what makes this storyline hurt so much. He's scared. Scared of his feelings. Scared of what loving Will might mean in the Forrester, Spencer world. Scared of disappointing his family, of becoming a topic of whispered conversations, of stepping outside the carefully curated identity everyone expects him to maintain. So instead of confronting the truth, RJ does what so many tragic characters before him have done on Bold and the Beautiful. He hides. He tells himself Dylan is safe. That Dylan is convenient. That Dylan deserves companionship anyway. He convinces himself that no one will get hurt if he keeps things light, controlled, temporary. But lies like this don't stay contained. They rot from the inside. Dylan, the tragic pawn. If RJ is conflicted, Dylan is utterly doomed by this situation. Dylan enters this pairing honestly, with hope, with need. Dylan believes RJ sees him not as a tool, not as a stepping stone, but as someone worthy of love. And in a show where Dylan has already faced rejection, instability, and suspicion from nearly everyone, RJ's attention feels like salvation. That's what makes this so cruel. Dylan isn't just being lied to. He's being used as emotional cover, a human shield designed to deflect attention while RJ pursues someone else. And when the truth finally comes out, because on B&B it always does, Dylan won't just lose RJ. He'll lose trust in himself. Will Spencer, the unknowing target. Perhaps the most haunting part of this storyline is Will's complete unawareness. Will doesn't know he's the reason for this pairing. He doesn't know that every glance RJ steals, every accidental touch, every coincidental meeting has been orchestrated behind a wall of deception. From Will's perspective, RJ is simply around. Friendly, supportive, safe. But the weight of RJ's hidden desire is building. And when it crashes into Will's world, the fallout will be brutal. Because Will won't just feel surprised. He'll feel complicit. He'll question every interaction, every moment of closeness, wondering whether he unknowingly encouraged something that destroyed someone else. A slow-burning tragedy, not a scandal. This storyline isn't explosive, it's suffocating. There are no immediate betrayals shouted across rooms. No dramatic slap. No instant confrontation. Instead, Bold and the Beautiful is telling a quiet tragedy, one rooted in fear, denial, and emotional cowardice. RJ tells himself he's protecting everyone. Dylan believes he's finally chosen. Will senses something, but doesn't know what. And the audience, we're forced to watch the countdown. The Forrester family blind spot. What makes this even sadder is how invisible RJ feels within his own family. Surrounded by big personalities, dramatic romances, and endless power struggles, RJ's inner turmoil goes largely unnoticed. No one is asking him who he truly wants. No one is giving him the safety to be honest without consequence. So he creates his own safety at Dylan's expense. And that silence, that lack of emotional support, it's just as responsible for what's happening as RJ's choices. When the truth comes out, because it will, Dylan will notice the way RJ looks at Will. Someone always does. A pause too long, a reaction too sharp, a jealousy that doesn't make sense. And when Dylan finally realizes he was never the destination, only the disguise, the devastation will be absolute. This isn't the kind of heartbreak you recover from quickly. This is the kind that changes how you love forever. Why fans are calling this very sad news. This storyline hurts because it's real. It reflects the pain of being someone's secret. The damage caused when fear overrides honesty. The collateral damage left behind when someone chooses comfort over courage. RJ using Dylan to get to Will isn't scandalous. It's tragic. And the saddest part? RJ knows it's wrong. He just doesn't know how to stop. Final thoughts. A storm is coming. The Bold and the Beautiful has set the stage for one of its most emotionally complex arcs in years. RJ, Dylan, and Will are now locked into a triangle built not on love, but on avoidance and longing. When this house of cards collapses, and it will, no one will walk away unscathed. Today's very sad news isn't about who ends up with whom. It's about the cost of hiding who you are and the innocent hearts that get broken along the way. This isn't the kind of heartbreak you recover from quickly. This is the kind that changes how you love forever. Why fans are calling this very sad news. This storyline hurts because it's real. It reflects the pain of being someone's secret. The damage caused when fear overrides honesty. The collateral damage left behind when someone chooses comfort over courage. RJ using Dylan to get to Will isn't scandalous. It's tragic. And the saddest part? RJ knows it's wrong. He just doesn't know how to stop. Final thoughts. A storm is coming. The Bold and the Beautiful has set the stage for one of its most emotionally complex arcs in years. RJ, Dylan, and Will are now locked into a triangle built not on love, but on avoidance and longing. When this house of cards collapses, and it will, no one will walk away unscathed. Today's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful delivered a wave of deeply unsettling emotion, leaving fans shaken and hearts heavy. What once looked like a strange coincidence has now crossed into something far more disturbing. Dylan seems glued to Electra Forrester, shadowing her every move, invading her space, and tightening a bond that no longer feels accidental or safe. This isn't romance. This isn't concern. This is obsession. And the sadness comes not just from what Dylan is doing, but from what Electra may be losing with every step she takes under his watchful eye. A presence that never leaves. Viewers couldn't ignore it today. Wherever Electra went, Dylan was there. If she entered a room, he appeared moments later. If she tried to leave, he found a reason to follow. If she spoke to someone else, Dylan's eyes never left her face. It felt suffocating. Electra Forrester, once confident and fiercely independent, now looks like someone constantly calculating her next move. Not out of ambition, but out of fear. Her smiles are forced. Her laughter is delayed. Her posture stiffens the moment Dylan steps into her line of sight. And the most heartbreaking part? She knows something is wrong, but doesn't yet see a way out. Dylan's attachment turns alarming. At first, Dylan's interest in Electra was brushed off as curiosity, then concern, then loyalty. Now, it's control. He finishes her sentences. He answers questions meant for her. He positions himself physically between Electra and anyone who might challenge his presence. Friends notice it. Family feels it. And Electra herself is starting to sense that the space around her has shrunk. Today's scenes painted a chilling picture. Dylan doesn't just want to be near Electra, he needs to be near her. And need, when mixed with instability, becomes dangerous. The Forrester family feels the shift. The Forrester family is no stranger to drama. But this situation hits differently. There's no loud argument, no explosive betrayal, just a quiet, creeping fear that something precious is slipping away. Electra isn't herself anymore. Family members exchange glances when Dylan inserts himself into private conversations. They pause when he answers questions that weren't directed at him. They notice how Electra looks to Dylan before speaking, almost as if seeking permission. That subtle change is devastating, because it suggests Electra is no longer fully in control of her own narrative. Isolation, the most dangerous weapon. What makes today's news so sad is the realization that Electra is becoming isolated. Dylan doesn't openly forbid her from seeing people, but he makes it uncomfortable. He hovers, he interrupts, he redirects. Over time, people stop trying. Isolation doesn't arrive with slammed doors. It arrives with silence, and that silence is growing louder. Friends who once checked in daily now hesitate. Conversations feel monitored. Laughter feels risky. And slowly, the world around Electra gets smaller, until Dylan becomes the center of it. That's not love. That's entrapment. Electra's inner conflict. One of the most heartbreaking moments today came when Electra was alone, truly alone, for just a brief moment. Her face fell, her shoulders sagged, and in that quiet pause, viewers saw the truth she hasn't yet spoken out loud. She feels trapped. Electra is smart. She's intuitive. She senses that Dylan's attachment isn't healthy, but confronting it feels terrifying. What if she's wrong? What if she overreacts? What if pushing him away makes things worse? That fear keeps her frozen, and Dylan knows it. Dylan's past raises red flags. Long-time viewers remember, Dylan's history has never been simple. He's carried emotional scars, unresolved trauma, and a tendency to latch onto people who make him feel grounded. Electra has become that anchor. But instead of standing beside her, Dylan has wrapped himself around her, tight enough to restrict her movement. Every glance, every interruption, every step taken together feels less like partnership and more like possession. The sadness comes from knowing that Dylan may truly believe he's protecting her, even as he slowly dismantles her independence. A storm waiting to break. Today didn't bring a dramatic explosion, but it brought something far worse: inevitability. This situation cannot remain as it is. Either Electra finds the strength to create distance, or Dylan tightens his grip even further. And if history has taught us anything on the bold and the beautiful, it's that unresolved obsession never fades quietly. Someone will get hurt, emotionally, reputationally, possibly even physically, and the warning signs are already flashing. Viewers react with concern and heartbreak. Fans took to social media immediately, voicing deep concern for Electra's well-being. Many described the scenes as uncomfortable, triggering, and heartbreaking. Others noted how realistic the portrayal feels, how easily control can disguise itself as care. This storyline isn't just sad, it's painfully relatable. Viewers recognize the slow erosion of boundaries, the guilt that keeps someone stuck, the fear of being the bad guy for wanting space. And that recognition makes today's news hit even harder. Can anyone reach Electra in time? The question haunting fans tonight is simple but devastating. Who will step in before it's too late? Will a family member finally confront Dylan? Will Electra confide in someone she trusts? Or will Dylan succeed in convincing her and everyone else that this closeness is normal? Every passing moment makes intervention harder, because the longer Dylan stays glued to Electra, the more normalized his presence becomes, and the harder it will be for her to break free without consequences. A tragic crossroads ahead. Today's very sad news isn't about a breakup, a betrayal, or a shocking death. It's about something quieter and far more frightening. It's about watching a strong young woman slowly lose her space, her voice, and her sense of self, while someone who claims to care stands just close enough to make escape feel impossible. Dylan being glued to Electra Forrester isn't love unfolding. It's a warning. And that recognition makes today's news hit even harder. Can anyone reach Electra in time? The question haunting fans tonight is simple but devastating. Who will step in before it's too late? Will a family member finally confront Dylan? Will Electra confide in someone she trusts? Or will Dylan succeed in convincing her, and everyone else, that this closeness is normal? Every passing moment makes intervention harder, because the longer Dylan stays glued to Electra, the more normalized his presence becomes, and the harder it will be for her to break free without consequences. A tragic crossroads ahead. Today's very sad news isn't about a breakup, a betrayal, or a shocking death. It's about something quieter and far more frightening. It's about watching a strong young woman slowly lose her space, her voice, and her sense of self, while someone who claims to care stands just close enough to make escape feel impossible. Dylan being glued to Electra Forrester isn't love unfolding. It's a warning that it's about watching a strong young woman slowly lose her space, her voice, and her sense of self, while someone who claims to care stands just close enough to make escape feel impossible. Dylan being glued to Electra Forrester isn't love unfolding. It's a warning that it's about watching a strong young woman slowly lose her space, her voice, and her sense of self, while someone who claims to care stands just close enough to make escape feel impossible.